I hate intros. Attack on Titan, the final season, part 1, episode 1. We kick things off in the middle of a war where a boy named Falco is nearly killed. Luckily, his older brother named Colt had found him laying on the ground and drug him to safety back in the trenches. Once he's back in the trenches, he meets 3 other kids who bring him up to speed on everything going on. The Marleyan Empire has been at war for 4 years, and they are in the process of trying to put an end to it. They will do this by taking Fort Slava and sinking the Middle Eastern Federation's fleet in the port behind it. Falco and the other kids are warrior candidates and being put on the front lines. They were put there as a part of a test to see which one of them deserves to take on the Armored Titan power. Once they decide who's going to inherit the power, they will then take part in an upcoming operation to subjugate Paradise Island. One of the children, Gabby, is pretty convinced that she will be the one to inherit the power and doesn't think anybody else is fit for the job. She wants to wipe out everybody on Paradise Island so that she can free all of the Eldians in the internment zones. Udo and Zofia are the other 2 candidates in the running, but they're not quite as confident as Gabby. Colt is trying to convince their captain named Maggot that they can't break through the machine guns to get to the railroads and destroy them, which is their ultimate goal. The Federation had designed new armor-piercing weapons to fight against the Titans. With these weapons in place, they fear deploying the Titans because they can't afford to lose any more. Since Maggot and the Marleyan government don't really care about Eldians that much, they decide to sacrifice 800 Eldian soldiers to get the job done. Gabby then convinces Maggot to let her go and try and destroy the railroads by herself with 7 explosives she has. She strips her uniform off and then approaches the enemy with explosives dragging on her ankle. The soldiers contemplate shooting her but don't decide fast enough, and so she throws the explosives and destroys the armor train. With that part of the plan successful, they then prepare to send Zeke and Reiner in to fight. They airdrop in a bunch of Eldian captives and transform them into Titans as they're falling. This acts as a scuff bombardment on the fort, allowing Reiner to penetrate the defenses. A fight ensues inside the fort where Reiner is nearly killed, but they manage to take out all of the remaining defenses. With the fort now in their control, the Beast Titan lands and grabs a bunch of explosive barrels, hurling it towards the fleet and destroying it. Now that the Middle Eastern Federation has lost their fleet, they are forced to sign a peace treaty with Marley. Episode 2. Even though they were victorious in the battle, it came with a realization that their Titans aren't invincible and that mankind is catching up in their weapons to fight them. In response to this, Zeke suggests that they need to resume their campaign against Paradise Island. By doing this, they could send a message to the world that they have reclaimed all of the Titan powers, keeping them in line. We also learned that this is Zeke's last year in his 13 years with the Beast Titan power. Once the 13th year is up, he will die due to the curse of Ymir, and he wants to spend his last year seeing things through on Paradise Island. After that, Falco's older brother Colt will inherit the Beast Titan power and take on his legacy. We then hop on over to Reiner, who talks with a new character in the name of Galliard. Galliard had gotten the Jaw Titan power from Ymir, meaning that she volunteered to be killed in order to pass along the power. Another new character joins the conversation in Piek, who is also the wielder of the Cart Titan, but nothing really comes of that. Now that the war is over, all of the Eldian soldiers return to their internment camps and families. While eating with the family, we see that Gabby is kind of being brainwashed. Everyone is under the impression that all of the people on Paradise Island are demons and savages and deserve to die. Reiner kind of bandwagons on this sentiment and doesn't bother to tell them what they're really like. In the last couple of scenes, Zeke holds a meeting with the other warriors. They discuss that there's going to be a festival and they want to have the Tibber family help them. The Tibber family controls the Warhammer Titan and fought King Fritz during the Great Titan War. The family's words carry weight, so they want them to tell the world that Marley will conquer Paradise Island within 1 year. Episode 3. We get a flashback of when Reiner was a kid. His mother told him that she had Eldian blood while his father had Marleyan blood, so they couldn't be together. He figured that if he could become a Marleyan, he could get his family back together, so that's why he joined the warriors. During their training, we see that Porco and Reiner never saw eye to eye because they were both competing for the Armored Titan position. While the kids are a part of a parade, Reiner sees his father in the crowd, so he goes to confront him. He eagerly tells his father that him and his mom are now honorary Marleyans. His father doesn't exactly respond well because he says that if they find out he's the father, then he's gonna be killed, so he has to flee. But anyways, hop on up to where the kids go to Paradise Island to attack and infiltrate the walls. On the way there, we find out that Porco's brother Marcel had gone behind everybody's back to ensure that Reiner got the Armored Titan power instead of his brother. This is because he wanted to ensure Porco's safety, and if he took on the Titan power, then it's likely he would die. During their talk, Ymir surprises them and kills Marcel, which is how she came into possession of the Jaw Titan power. Annie blames Reiner for Marcel's death and wants to take him back to Marley to be punished. She kicks the fucking shit out of him, but eventually he convinces her that if they all go back as failures, they'll likely be killed also. This convinces them to carry out the mission, so they attack the walls like in Season 1, Episode 1, and infiltrate the city. 5 years after infiltrating the walls, they were still convinced that the Marleyans wouldn't be happy with just information, so they decide that they need to destroy Wall Rose. This would force the Founding Titan out of hiding, and the Marleyans could finally seize control of it. Hop on over to Falco, who meets with a man that he had helped out named Kruger. The man was claiming that he was suffering from PTSD and staying at a hospital, but in reality he was just too scared to go home. In the last couple of scenes, they both get to talking, and Falco expresses that he doesn't want Gabby to take on the Armor Titan power. Episode 4. Kruger doesn't want everybody to find out that he's faking, so he asks Falco to mail something for him. It's a letter to his family saying that he's at the hospital and he's doing okay. The next day, the Tibber family arrive for the festival. We then meet the head of the Tibber family named Willie. We also learn that the country of Marley is actually ran by the Tibber family. Jump ahead a bit where for the first time, Falco beats Gabby in a race. Everybody celebrates because it looks like he's actually putting up a fight for the Armor Titan position. He admits that he's fighting so hard because he cares about Gabby, but she doesn't really get the sentiment. Later on, Kruger is approached by a doctor saying not to involve Falco with him faking his PTSD so that he doesn't get in trouble. After the two talk for a bit, it's revealed that the doctor's name is Jaeger, and it's actually Grisha's father. He has a meltdown when he starts thinking about how Grisha's sister and his daughter was killed by the guards and is taken off by some of his colleagues. Falco and the other kids are then tasked with serving drinks at a party. While serving the drinks, Udo makes a mistake and spills wine on one of the guests. Because he's an Eldian, he's gonna get a lot of shit for this, and she knows this, so she covers for him, saying that she spilt the wine instead. Willie makes a speech saying that he's found a solution to the Eldian problem and that tomorrow he's gonna reveal it on stage. The next day, the festival starts, and we get a quick compilation of all of the kids enjoying their time at the festival before inevitably everything is going to fucking fall apart. Episode 5. We come in on a conversation where we learn that Kruger and Reiner seem to have some sort of past together. While they're talking, we see that everybody has gathered together to see this performance. This includes the heart of the Marleyan army, ambassadors, and famous families from all over the world. Kruger is revealed to be Eren in disguise, and Reiner recognized him right away. The performance gets underway where Willie tells the story of the Marleyan history. Porco and Piek are led by one of the soldiers where they wind up falling into a trap. Willie then switches gears and tells how the history actually unfolded. King Friedhead came to regret the Eldian Empire's savage history. He also hated that the Marleyans were living in oppression. When he inherited the Founding Titan power, him and the Tibber family devised a plan. They wanted to establish a savior figure, which is how the hero Helos was born. The real reason he retreated to Paradise Island was because he had renounced war altogether. This sentiment was passed down to everybody who inherited the Founding Titan power, which is why none of them wanted to fight the war. He also reveals that the Tibber family had bargained for their family's continued safety. They joined hands with Karl Fritz and sold Eldia to Marley. Over to Piek and Porco, who can't transform because it's too small of a space. The letters that Eren had sent with Falco weren't actually going to his family, but they were going to his allies. Eren finally confronts Reiner about how his mother was killed and asks for an explanation. Reiner goes on to tell him that they were trying to get to the Founding Titan power and that she was basically just collateral. Eren realizes that he can't completely blame Reiner for all of the things that they did because he was so heavily influenced as a kid. As Willie's speech is coming to an end, he declares war on Paradise Island. Kind of a bad fucking idea because in the last couple of scenes, Eren takes on his Titan form and kills Willie. Episode 6. We see that earlier that day, Magath and Willie had discussed the possibility of there being an attack at the performance. The performance was actually to get all of the Marleyan officers together and use them as bait to lure out the enemy. Eren locates where all of the officers are sitting and rushes them, killing them all. After that, Willie's sister, who holds the Warhammer Titan power, transforms. Eren quickly reacts and lays the bitch out. The Warhammer Titan soon fights back against Eren, impaling him. We see that Udo is being carried by Colt and was badly injured in all of the commotion. Piek didn't trust the soldier leading them, so she managed to tip off other soldiers that go and find them. Eren starts losing the fight against the Warhammer Titan as well as taking heavy shots from the anti-Titan cannons. He gets his ass handed to him, and just as he's about to get killed, Mikasa jumps in to save him. The other scouts are also there and launch attacks, taking out the anti-Titan cannons. Eren realizes that the Warhammer Titan can use hardening fighting to make whatever weapon it wants. This means that it won't die even if you destroy the nape of its neck. Because of all of its neat little abilities, Eren wants to use this opportunity to eat the Warhammer Titan. Meanwhile, we see that Udo didn't get to the doctor in time and wound up dying. Gabby's pretty pissed and wants to get involved in the fighting, but when she tries to, two soldiers get killed by Sasha in front of her, which pisses her off even more. Back over to the fight with the Warhammer Titan, where Eren had noticed that it had materialized from the ground at the center of the stage. Eren finds her real body and is about to eat it, but then Porco shows up and tries eating him. Luckily, Mikasa cuts the Titan's jaw, preventing him from being able to bite down onto Eren. In the last couple of scenes, Porco is prevented from fleeing and swarmed by the Paradise soldiers. Episode 7. As the scouts are charging, Pieck shows up in her Titan, opening fire on them and deterring them from killing Porco. Zeke shows up in the Beast Titan to reinforce Marlene's, segueing into a battle between the two sides. Eren's Titan is pretty fucked up, but he's gained a lot of stamina since the last season, so he can transform again. As Marlene warships arrive to help in the fight, we see that Armin is actually in the middle of the fleet on a fishing boat. He transforms into the Colossal Titan, destroying all of the ships in a massive blast. While everyone is distracted by the blast, Levi capitalizes by catching Zeke off guard, cutting the nape of his Titan's neck. Once he's down, Levi blows his neck up with a grenade, seemingly killing Zeke in the process. Over to Sasha and John, along with other scouts who blow up the cart Titan, severely injuring Pieck in the process. Porco catches Eren off guard, attacking him with his jaw Titan, making Eren realize how strong his jaw actually is. Jumping all over the fucking place at this point, Hanji then shows up in an airship as a means to extract all of the scouts out of the battlefield. Back over to Porco, who gets his arms ripped off by Eren, and then he uses his powerful jaw to break through the case protecting Lara. The case breaks open, killing her in the process and spilling her blood into Eren's mouth, giving him the Warhammer Titan's power. Porco is next on the menu, but then Gabby starts calling out to the unconscious Reiner to save him. Reiner hears the calls, and despite wanting to just die in peace, he decides to take on his Titan form once again to save Porco. Episode 8. Eren and Reiner have their fight, which doesn't last too long because Eren knocks him out with one punch, but he manages to get Porco to safety in the process. Now that they've gotten a hold of Eren, which was their main objective, all of the remaining scouts board the airship to make their escape. Gabby is distraught because Sophia was crushed by debris and Udo was trampled by the crowd while trying to save her. She is determined to exact revenge on the scouts, so she chases after the airship, shooting and killing one of the scouts. His body falls to the ground, but his maneuver gear is still attached to the ship. Since she wants to kill all of the scouts, she uses the gear to get onto the ship, and Falco wants to keep her safe, so he is forced to tag along. Once they had boarded the ship, Gabby busts in, does a sick combat roll, and then shoots Sasha, which she will later die from. She nearly shoots John also, but Falco tackles her, preventing the shot from landing. Once the scouts register what's actually happening, they rush the kids and start beating the shit out of them. The kids are then subdued and brought in, where they find Zeke, who's actually alive and aboard the ship also. Turns out that he had faked his death because he's actually working with the scouts. It's not just him though, because one of his loyal soldiers, Yelena, had worked together with him to conspire against the Marleans. Hodge then reveals that this operation wasn't planned, and Eren forced the scouts into action by getting himself captured. They can't afford to lose him, so they had no choice but to launch an attack and get him back. Eren is arrested for breaking their trust, forcing them into the situation, and ultimately getting Sasha killed in the process. Episode 9. Now we hop back 3 years to where Marlene's ship and its crew are captured by Eren and the scouts. Yelena was on board the ship, which is how she came to meet everybody. Hanji investigates their weapons while Yelena tells them about the Marlene forces. Since they're so powerful, Hanji wants to figure out why they haven't attacked yet. The first reason are the Pure Titans that are on Paradise Island. Originally, the Pure Titans were set loose onto the island by the Marlenes to keep the Eldians trapped inside the walls, but ironically, they wound up just making it difficult to invade the island later. The second reason is that Marley is at war with other countries and can't afford to focus on Paradise Island right now. Before they were captured, Yelena and the other soldiers shot their superior officers on Zeke's orders. She and the other soldiers on board had their homelands invaded by Marley before being forced to join the army. Because they're not exactly fans of Marley, their goal is the liberation of all Eldians from the Marleyan oppressors. These soldiers will become known as the Anti-Marleyan Volunteers. They also say that Zeke's goal from the beginning has always been to gain control of the founding Titan power. Of course, in the prior seasons, he had tried using force to obtain the power, but since that didn't exactly pan out, now he's having to work with the scouts to get it. He claims to have some sort of plan to resolve all of Eldia's problems, but he's not going to say what it is until he has control of the founding Titan power along with the Titan of royal blood. With the help of the anti-Marleyan volunteers, they learn about the outside world and advance their technology to fight against them. We also see that one of the Marleyans named Nicolo had cooked for Sasha while he was there and was pretty sad about her death because there was something going on between the two of them. Episode 10. Back into the past again, 2 years before the battle in Marley. A port was constructed on Paradise Island and they received their first foreign dignitary. The ship is from Hizuru, which is the only nation friendly to Paradise Island. On board is Kiyomi Azumabito, who is the lady that prevented Udo from getting beaten at the party after he accidentally spilled some wine on her. Turns out that their emblem has been passed down through Mikasa's mother's side of the family, but she never knew what it meant. The lady tells Mikasa that the son of a shogun chose to remain on Paradise Island as a sign of friendship with King Fritz. Hizuru then lost its standing after being defeated in the Great Titan War. This means that Mikasa is the lost descendant to their country's ruler. Zeke and Hizuru had met in private before, where he gave her the 3D maneuver gear that he got from Paradise Island. He also says that the fuel it runs on is called Ice Burst Stone and has never been discovered outside of the island. In exchange for participating in his plan to get the founding Titan power, he promises them to revitalize their industrial sector, returning the nation to its former glory. Kiyomi came to meet with them to utilize their natural resources and make a profit. They plan on becoming a political power with the help of Hizuru, using the rumbling to keep the other nations from attacking them. The rumbling is a last resort, which entails using the founding Titan power to wake up all of the colossal titans that are lying dormant inside the walls. This would be devastating to anybody caught in the Titan's path, so they are hoping that the threat of it will be enough without them actually having to use it. Because Zeke doesn't have much time to live, they need to ensure that the Beast Titan is passed down. Historia agrees to take on the Beast Titan's power when the time comes. Eren isn't happy with this plan and conveys his dismay during the meeting. But anyways, back on up to the present, where we see that Historia had messed around a little bit and gotten pregnant in the process. The father of the child used to throw rocks at Historia when she was younger, which is so romantic, but he felt guilty about this as he grew up, so to make amends, he helped the orphanage where she had grown up. When she found out about this, she apparently got kind of hot and bothered, and they fucked. Now that she's pregnant though, they can't turn her into a Titan so that she can eat Zeke and take on the Beast Titan's power because they fear that the baby might be killed in the process. Episode 11. Gabby goes for an Oscar, feigning some sort of mental breakdown, then beats the guard to death with a wooden block. Her and Falco then make a run for it, escaping from their holding cells because apparently there's one fucking guard. Gabby is looking for Zeke because she's determined to get some answers from him before they're found. The two of them then come across a girl named Kaya. She brings them back to her house where they are fed by the family there. Meanwhile, Kiyomi comes back to the island and reveals that with the help of the Ice Burst Stone, they made the first flying ship. Now we jump on over to Flock, who had told the press about Eren being arrested. This was an attempt to get Eren set free, but instead him and the others are put on trial for leaking information. Pixies is suspicious that Yelena was responsible for helping Eren act on his own, so he goes to interrogate her. Meanwhile, we see Falco and Gabby are helping Kaya do some chores around the place. Kaya had overheard them talking and figured out that they're Marleyans. The three of them get to talking, and it's revealed that Kaya is the girl Sasha had saved in the earlier seasons from a Titan, and the family she's living with are Sasha's parents. Kaya tells him that the family was invited to eat with Nicolo, so if they come along, maybe they can find a way back to Marley because Nicolo is Marleyan also. Episode 12. Now that the press has found out about Eren being detained, people gather outside the headquarters to protest for him to be released. Meanwhile, Yelena expresses that she did meet with Eren and told him that a fire needed to be lit under the military, but he did way more than she was hoping for. Over to Zachary, who meets with Mikasa and Armin to tell them that it's likely Eren has been influenced by Zeke during his time alone in Marley. After their talk, Armin speculates that the military has given up on Eren, and they're looking for someone to inherit the Titan powers he possesses. possesses. Mikasa then wants to eavesdrop on Zachary's next meeting, but then his office is blown up and Zachary is killed in the explosion. He had a custom chair brought in and the explosives were installed inside of it. Armin recalls that the chair was brought in by Survey Corps recruits and he remembers seeing one of them leaving the headquarters after their talk. Their meeting is then interrupted when they find out that Eren had escaped from his underground cell. He then goes to meet with Flock and other scouts who are loyal to him. These scouts have spies inside the military and are the ones responsible for killing Zachary. This is because they were planning on killing Eren to transfer the Titan powers, so they just wanted to protect him. Eren and the scouts loyal to him are referred to as Jaegerists, and their goal is to have Eren make contact with Zeke so he can use the founding Titan power. Now that Zachary is gone, Pixie starts calling the shots and he suggests that they open negotiations with the Jaegerists. This is controversial, of course, but he explains that they don't have time to be fighting amongst themselves about these things. Hanji wants to investigate all of the work environments Yelena established for captive Marleyans, including the restaurant where Gabby and Falco are brought for their meal. And in the last couple of scenes, we also see that Pieck has made her way onto the island. Episode 13. We come in on an explanation as to why the Titans from Ragako village, which was Connie's village, followed the Beast Titan's commands. Zeke's spinal fluid is capable of turning people into Titans, so they weaponized his spinal fluid into a gas that was released into the village. People who inhaled the gas remain paralyzed until Zeke sends an order through the paths and the power of the Titans is sent to their coordinates. Gabby and Falco go with Kaya's family to meet Nicolo, who wanted to cook for them because they were Sasha's parents and he was in love with her. Haji shows up with some others to ask Nicolo some questions, but agreed to wait until he's finished cooking for the family. Once Nicolo is off by himself, Gabby and Falco make their move to ask him for help since he's a Marleyan. Gabby reveals to him that she was the one who shot Sasha, thinking that he's a Marleyan who hates the Eldians also. When he hears that she was the one who killed the girl he was in love with, he loses control and attacks them. Grabbing a bottle of wine, he hits Falco over the head with it and then beats the shit out of Gabby. After that, he drags him up to Sasha's family to have the father execute the killer of his daughter. Hanji and the others hear the commotion and rush in to try and de-escalate the situation. Sasha's father refuses though, saying that he wants to be the one who breaks the cycle of killing. Everything seems like it's gonna be fine until Kaya, of all people, rushes Gabby and nearly kills her with a knife, but is stopped at the last second. That should have been the end of it, but then it's revealed that some of the wine that went into Falco's mouth when he was hit contained some of Zeke's spinal fluid. Nicolo isn't 100% sure that the spinal fluid is in there, but he has a hunch that's the case. Yelena was urging him to give the wine to the higher ranking military members, but it's likely she was the only one who knew about it. While talking with Gabby, Eren suddenly appears and Jaegerists take over the building. Flock apparently knew about the spinal fluid being inside the wine, which means that this is all a part of their plan, and he takes Hanji along with the others captive. And in the last couple of scenes, Eren, Mikasa, Armin, and Gabby sit down for a little talk. Episode 14. Eren starts out by saying that he's free and acting independently from any influence, meaning that Zeke isn't forcing him to do this. While in Marley, Eren went to talk with Zeke by himself and learn more about the Titan's powers. He then points out that Armin has been going to visit Annie so much because part of Bertold is living on inside of him, and he was in love with Annie. As for Mikasa, he tells her that the Ackerman family was formed to protect the King of Eldia. When Eren had ordered her to fight against the men that killed her parents when she was a kid, her instincts were awakened. Now he suggests that she only exists to follow orders. He insults her, saying that she's a slave and people who aren't free make him sick, so he can't stand the sight of her. When he says that he hates her, Armin loses his cool and tries to attack him, but Mikasa reacts without thinking and subdues Armin. Eren uses this as proof that she is a slave to obey her Ackerman blood. Armin is then let free, so he attacks Eren, but the fight is pretty one-sided, obviously because Armin's a bit of a bitch, so he gets the shit kicked out of him. After that, Eren says that he's going to meet Zeke and Shigashina, and he is taking Gabby with him. Over to Levi, who decides that he wants to give Zeke's Beast Titan to someone else. As he prepares to attack him, Zeke suddenly makes a run for it and screams out. The soldiers there had been drinking the wine with Zeke's spinal fluid in it, so when he lets out his scream, all of the soldiers transform into Titans. Levi doesn't feel quite right killing the Titans because they were his men, but come on, he's a little bit too alpha for that, so he does it anyways, and then catches up to Zeke. Zeke is forced to transform, and the two of them get into a little bit of a skirmish that ends with Levi using thunder spears to blow Zeke out of his Titan. Oddly enough, he survives, but is badly injured and unable to fight back, so Levi drags him along with him. Meanwhile, in Shigashina, Fluck and the Jaegerists take over Keith's training. Fluck convinces some of the men to join the Jaegerists, and then they beat the shit out of Keith to prove their loyalty. Back over to Levi, where Zeke has regained consciousness, so Levi cuts off his arms and legs so he can't transform. Episode 15. We come in on a flashback of Zeke growing up. His family and him are discriminated against because they're Eldians, and his father tries to instill his values in Zeke, saying that it's not okay they're treated this way and they need to change the world. Zeke enters his warrior training where he falls behind and catches the eye of Tom Xaver, who is the current Beast Titan at the time. We also see that he is frequently brought to his grandparents' house where he learns about the Marleyan history. His grandparents try to teach him the Marleyan version and believe in atoning for what the Eldians had supposedly done. In contrast, his father Grisha would teach him the Marleyan stories are lies, fabricated as propaganda. But anyway, Zeke is still struggling in his training and underperforming compared to the other kids. One day while walking home, he winds up playing catch with Tom. When he gets home, he overhears Grisha saying that with how bad his grades are, the owl can't manipulate the selection process for Zeke to become a warrior. He keeps trying, but still can't keep up with the others, and his father is pissed because their plan is relying on him. He plays catch with Tom again and finds out that Tom had only become a warrior for his research in Titans. Tom tells Zeke that it started when the founder came into contact with something and he wants to learn what happened. While walking around, he overhears a meeting where Marleyan soldiers expose that they know about the Eldian restorationists and the owl working as the informant of the group. He tries talking his parents out of being in the movement, but they are set on their plan and he can't convince them otherwise. 2020 hindsight, you probably should have just fucking told them that they were going to be captured, but you know, whatever. Zeke goes to Tom for advice and tells him about his parents being restorationists. Tom is the one who convinced Zeke to turn in his parents in order to keep Zeke and his grandparents safe. Now we jump ahead to when he's a little bit older and Tom's getting close to the end of his time as the Beast Titan. In his research, Tom learned that not only can the founding Titan power manipulate memories, but it can also alter the structure of their bodies. Zeke gets the idea to use this power to prevent subjects of Ymir from having babies, that way the Titans would disappear. Tom tells him to find the one who holds the founding Titan power, and then the Beast Titan power is passed on to Zeke. Jump ahead just a bit where Eren and Zeke had their meeting before the attack in Marley. Zeke tells him about the quote-unquote Eldian euthanasia plan and the two agree to work together. Now we hop back on up to the present where Levi goes to cut off Zeke's legs again, but a pin is pulled and there's a massive explosion. Episode 16. Zeke just fucking refuses to die, so he survives through this explosion also, and then a Titan comes over, rips open its stomach, and then puts him inside like a goddamn tauntaun from Star Wars. Yelena and Pixies have a talk about how a lot of the military had drank the spinal fluid already. This caused even more soldiers to join the Jaegerists to avoid being turned into Titans. White armbands are given to the soldiers who are Jaegerists. Red are for those who converted after drinking the wine, and black are for the ones who drank the wine but still refused to join. We then see the anti-Marleyan volunteers come to see Mikasa and the others. While talking, Grice, who is relatively unimportant up until this point, starts saying shit about Nicolo, who is locked up there too. He talks about how Sasha was a whore or whatever, which is a tiny bit rude, so Yelena shoots him in the head. Meanwhile, Eren goes to meet with Gabby to ask her to work with him, and in exchange, he will save Falco. Pieck, who had infiltrated the building, then stabs one of the guards and holds Eren at gunpoint. She then monologues about how she became a warrior for her father's medical treatment or whatever, who cares. She says she wants to show her father a bright future for the Eldians, so she requests that Eren destroy Marley. Gabby's not too happy about hearing Pieck say this, so Pieck has to clarify, saying that if they keep on this track, eventually Marley won't need them anymore and they'll be killed, so she wants to prevent that from happening. Eren wants proof that she's going to help them, so she offers to take him to the roof and point out where her allies are. Back over to Yelena, who goes into more detail about Zeke's euthanasia plan and how he's going to use the founding Titan's power to alter the Eldians' bodies in order to prevent them from having kids. They will use the threat of the rumbling to keep the world at bay until the Eldians peacefully die out. Armin breaks down like a little bitch, saying that this plan is so noble and he's so overwhelmed, yada yada yada. Yelena meets with Eren on the roof and warns that it's dangerous to trust Pieck. When Pieck is asked to point out the enemy, she points at Eren, and then the Jaw Titan breaks through the roof, nearly eating Eren in the process. Porco misses his target it though, allowing Eren to take on his Titan form. Pieck reassures Gabby that she is still loyal as Marleyan ships appear above the city with Reiner in tow. I'm gonna be doing the future seasons, and you can find that on the left side whenever I'm finished with it, or you can check out all the Attack on Titan recaps in the playlist on the right side. You can also find the links in the description below, and the only thing I hate more than intros is outros.